Tanks are the #1 target on a battlefield. That's why the military industry is constantly developing and improving systems to combat them. Whoever destroys the enemy armored vehicles more effectively wins local battles. Local battles pave the way to victory in the war. Today there's a big variety of means to fight tanks. Let's see how the FGM-148 Javelin anti-tank missile system handles Russian armor. Often tanks and armor personnel carriers set off epic fireworks. This happens because of the outdated design of Russian vehicles and the new principle of operation of the ATGMs. Anti-tank systems are lightweight and allow saboteurs to ambush deep in enemy territory. A soldier comes out of cover and fires at a tank with an ATGM. Surprisingly, the second tank did nothing when it saw the Ukrainian. The rocket strikes the engine compartment. The tank is damaged. The second hit went straight into the turret. This is all that is left of the tank. Another sabotage group of Ukrainians gets very close to a Russian tank. The Javelin missile is launched. It flies upwards and then dives down sharply. The tank is destroyed. The job is done. The Javelin has become the undisputed favorite and the most dangerous ATGM for Russian armored vehicles. Here's an example. 3 Russian armored personnel carriers are coming. The Ukrainians are armed with a Javelin. The far-sighted Russians let one armored personnel carrier go forward. A missile hit stops the vehicle. The Ukrainians fire again. The crew begins to leave the armored vehicle. The Russians are frightened and decide to abandon the other 2 armored vehicles as well. The Ukrainians simply finish off the abandoned vehicles. And this was another unsuccessful assault attempt. A convoy of Russian tanks and armored vehicles was stopped by ATGMs and destroyed by artillery. A Russian tank rides to support his group. In order to assess the situation, it stops. This is the first mistake. Immediately a rocket hits the left side. Next, the Ukrainians fire the second missile. The artillery strikes. 2 more armored personnel carriers pull out, probably to evacuate these soldiers. The first armored vehicle hits a mine and stops. Nearby stands a tank that's been hit with a Javelin. The second BMP was also destroyed. The group was defeated and the crew was destroyed by Ukrainian artillery. The military claims that the Javelin missile is even capable of shooting down a helicopter. This is because the Russians, like the Ukrainians, fly at extremely low altitudes and the speed of the helicopter is not high enough to evade the Javelin missile. For example, this is how the Javelin missile is able to catch up with Russian helicopters. The Javelin missile is capable of hitting targets up to 2.5 kilometers away. According to some information, the Javelin is capable of hitting targets at a distance of more than 4,000 meters. Somehow the Russians shouted that it was impossible and it was not true. The distance to the tank was 2,300 meters. The Ukrainians destroyed it, you just saw the proof. It is difficult to hide from the missile even behind obstacles. The missile often hits the target from above, where the most vulnerable armor is. Look at the trajectory that missile takes. Such a hit almost always destroys equipment. It's not necessary for something to explode. It is enough to hit the engine, transmission, suspension, and other important units. And this is what I'm talking about. This is a Russian tank. The Ukrainians are firing a Javelin missile. The missile comes from above. Do you think after such a hit the tank is usable? Lucky if it can make it to some shelter. The tank is on fire, the driver cannot handle it. It's time to evacuate and run. The missile flying in from above penetrates the thin armor. The ammunition is often detonated. The Javelin missile penetrates up to 600 millimeters of armor. One shot can turn a Russian tank into a pile of scattered scrap metal. After a missile hit, a Russian tank often looks like this. The turret flies high in the sky 15 to 20 meters. Falling from this height, it pierces the asphalt like this. At this place, a rocket hit the Russian tank. The hole was half a meter deep. The engine was thrown into the woods. Look how far the turret flew and hit the ground. Parts were scattered all over the place. But there are times when one shot is not enough. That's why Ukrainians often shoot at a tank twice. The first shot immobilizes the target, the second turns it into scrap metal. The effectiveness of the Javelin missile is also due to the tandem warhead consisting of 2 charges. The first charge is used to penetrate the armor, while the second is used to hit the internal systems of the target. Even the latest modifications of Russian tanks are helpless against the Javelin. Now you're witnessing a direct hit on a tank. Ammunition instantly ignites. The fire is so strong that 5-meter columns of fire burst out of the tank. That's definitely a bad sign. most likely there will be an explosion. The turret of the tank is sent to flight. One of the best operations using Javelin in Ukraine. Ukrainians notice a Russian convoy. Soldiers prepare Javelin launchers and wait for the Russians. The first missile is launched. As we can expect, it's a direct hit. The Russians have already received a signal that they do not need to go further, but this does not stop them. The second shot in another explosion. What are the Russians thinking about? They have already lost 2 tanks. The third rocket is fired. Again, the Russian armor fails to cope with the Javelin. The Russian tank decides its forehead can stop the missile. Let's take a look. The missile hits exactly on target, the armor withstands. The tank retreats. There's an explosion nearby. This is all that remains of the Russian tanks. Take a look at this recent video of an epic detonation. 3 Russian tanks attacked Ukrainian positions. The first Javelin shot beautifully destroys the first tank. The second hit does not cause an explosion but causes a large fire. Here it is from another angle. It burns and continues to drive forward. The third tank is trying to escape. But we know there's no hiding from the Javelin, especially in the field. The tank withstands the hit, though pieces are torn off of it. The second shot pierces the armor and reaches the ammo. All 3 tanks were destroyed. This Russian tank was lucky it was not destroyed by the first Javelin hit. After the tank was hit, it was able to leave the combat position. The tank tries to avoid the place where the mine exploded earlier, but it runs into another mine. It tries to turn around and fails again. The Ukrainians fire a Javelin at a disabled tank. A precise hit sets it on fire. Part of the ammunition was used up, so the explosion was less powerful. Anyway, it was enough to tear the turret off. The Ukrainians are also using another ATGMs to destroy Russian armored vehicles. This is how the Russian armored vehicle was stopped and then finished off. Probably the red dot is the Stugna rocket fired at the Russian APC. You can see the results. A Russian tank has taken up a position near one of Ukraine's coal enterprises. Reconnaissance has detected it. Ukrainians set up Stugna missile defense system to work. The missile has been fired. It has laser guidance and follows into a laser illuminated object. After a hit, the tank catches fire. It is destroyed. In general, Stugna missile launcher deserves a separate video. If you are interested in this topic, let me know about it in comments and I will make a video for you. The NLAW is also quite popular in Ukraine and has proven itself well. Its main difference from the Javelin is its low weight and higher rate of preparation for firing. Ukrainian intelligence revealed a Russian stronghold. The Russians dug special pits and drove armored personnel carriers into them. This is how they thought to protect their equipment. The Ukrainian saboteurs armored with NLAW complexes set out on a mission. The soldier fires the first shot, hitting a Russian armored personnel carrier. The second one is dealt with by artillery. The mission is completed. The NLAW has a high armor penetration rate. This is the Russian T-80 tank. The NLAW pierced right through it. This is where the missile hit. It punched through the armor, the batteries, the fuel tank and out on the other side. The first time I saw it, I was very impressed. Swedish Carl Gustaf anti-tank systems are also known to be used. The main feature is the low weight and a large choice of charges, all depending on the targets to be fired at. For tanks it is 1 charge, for shelters another, and so on. This is the T-90M, the most modern Russian tank. It was destroyed by a hit from a Carl Gustaf missile defense system. And this is all that's left of it. You can often see Ukraine using a handheld anti-tank grenade launcher or RPG that stands for rocket propelled grenade. It is difficult to classify it as a full-fledged ATGM, but it can surely immobilize heavy equipment. A Ukrainian hit a Russian BMP with an RPG. One precise hit was enough to penetrate the armor of the vehicle. Of course, nothing has been able to match the effectiveness of the Javelin yet. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like me to continue creating such content, then let me know by clicking the like button and leaving a comment. That's all info I have for now. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video.